The future tense in Spanish indicates an action that will simply happen in the future, hence it's the simple future. In English, it's a very simple concept because it doesn't matter what verb we use, we always put the word will before the verb, which doesn't change the verb itself. In Spanish, the future is a simple tense consisting of one word which doesn't really conjugate the verb, but rather keeps the form of the verb as the infinitive and then adds some letters after it. Principally, verbs in the future tense in Spanish don't really get conjugated, but rather they change by having letters after them. The best thing about the future tense in Spanish is that it doesn't matter if we use an AR, ER, or IR verb, stem changing, or an irregular yo verb, the change to the verb itself will stay the same across almost every verb there is in Spanish. For the yo pronoun, you keep the form of the verb and then put the ending e with an accent so that when you say the word, the emphasis is put on that accent. For tú, you put as with an accent. For él, you put a with an accent. For nosotros, you put hemos with no accent, making it the only pronoun in the future tense with no accent. For vosotros, you put eis with an accent, and for ellos, you put an with an accent. With the future tense in Spanish, I recommend focusing on all pronouns except vosotros because using any verb in the future tense is very practical. There are, however, a few irregular verbs in the future, mainly ones that are simply mixed up. The best tip that I can give is to just memorize these verbs because there is no pattern to follow with any of them, but keep in mind that they still maintain the same ending as for regular verbs. In the list, you have verbs like decir, meaning to say or to tell, hacer, to do or to make, poder, to can, poner, to put, querer, to want, saber, to know, salir, to leave, tener, to have, and venir, to come. As far as I know, these are the only irregular verbs in the future tense, and here are some examples. Saying something like I will do my homework will be yo haré mi tarea. Saying you will buy a house in the future can be tú comprarás una casa en el futuro. Saying he will be 30 years old will be él tendrá 30 años, and we have to use the verb tener to express having an age, so watch out for that. Saying nosotros aprenderemos español mañana can mean we will learn Spanish tomorrow, with the word mañana helping us indicate that the action is in the future. Saying ellos vendrán si ellos quieren can mean they will come if they want. Saying yo te lo daré can mean I will give you it, using direct and indirect object pronouns which will always come before the verb. Saying él se bañará can mean he will take a bath, using a reflexive verb with the object pronoun coming before the verb. Ultimately, there are many phrases that you can make using the simple future tense in Spanish, and it's up to you to say any phrase that you want because it is not that hard to memorize. Finally, there's one last concept that I would like to present that mainly has to do with expressing your thoughts in the future and how to think in Spanish in terms of the future, which doesn't really require the simple future tense. Before learning this tense, I made a video about the verb ir, talking about how to use the verb to go in Spanish. Something that I've mentioned over time with the verb ir, and something that people don't realize when learning Spanish, is that the verb ir can effectively be used to express the near future using the construction ir a plus an infinitive in the present simple. For instance, I can say a sentence like yo voy a comer por la tarde, meaning I'm going to eat in the afternoon, which indicates an action in the near future using the infinitive comer. However, we can in fact use the verb ir as an infinitive to express the future when speaking. Saying something like yo voy a ir a la escuela means I'm going to go to the school, which expressively shows the future in context, and the same idea applies to any sentence that you want to say using yo voy a ir. Now, instead of actively using this phrase, we can use the simple future tense by simply saying yo iré a la escuela, meaning I will go to the school. As you can see, in order to express the future when speaking, we have two phrases that can do so, with one using the verb ir as an infinitive, I'm going to go, and with the other being the simple future, I will go. And you don't really have to use the verb ir. You can say something like ella va a caminar, she is going to walk, but saying ella caminará means she will walk. It doesn't matter which phrase you say because you express the future in the two sentences. In case you forget the simple future tense, you can use ir instead and vice versa. Personally, I think it's best to use ir because you don't have to change the infinitive. All you do is use ir a and then any verb you want, whereas using the simple future tense might require more thinking because instead of conjugating the verb, you have to remember which letter to place after the verb, and it's a lot to memorize. This, in fact, is a useful lang hack. Either way, this video was about the simple future tense, but this hack is useful to express the future and not so in the future simple tense. So that's that. This has been the simple future tense in Spanish. Thank you for watching this video, and hopefully I made your learning just a bit simpler.